You're now tuning in to Fatima Bey, the MindShifter. Get ready to shift your thinking and turn it into success.
Hello, and thank you for listening. Today's message is entitled, Teenagers Are Annoying. Well, if you've ever had a teenager, or if you have one now, you either just chuckled in agreement with that statement or rolled your eyes or shook your head in agreement with that statement. Teenagers are so annoying. They're indecisive. They think they know it all. They know like 3 things and they think they know 10. They don't want to take any guidance because they want to do it all themselves. They make dumb decisions and then you have to deal with the consequences. Just all kinds of reasons. They get attitudes. They're emotional. Sometimes you're just like, would you just grow up? Well, guess what? That's exactly what they're doing. And that's exactly what you're doing. You see, teenagers are young humans. The growth process that we watch teenagers go through is not any different than what you are doing right now. Because see, as an adult, you look at a teenager because you're at a different level of maturity now. Let's say you're 30 years old. And you look at a teenager as a 30-year-old and you're like, what the hell are you thinking? What's wrong with you? And the reason for that is you are at a different level of maturity now than you were back then. When you look back at your teenagers, you're like, what the hell was I thinking? So we all do that. And if you don't, then you probably need some more self-examination. But if you're normal, we've all done that. And we look back and we're like, I don't think that way anymore. Well, to someone else, you're a teenager who's reached a different level of maturity than where you are right now. And they're looking over at you like, what the hell is he or she thinking? Because you have not yet reached the level of maturity that they're at. You see, the growth process doesn't change throughout life. If you're human, it's going to keep happening. It's when the growth process stops happening that becomes a bigger problem. But growth is a process. And again, it doesn't end because you turn some magical number of 18 or 25 or 21 and by magic you're more mature. No, that doesn't happen. Maturity is something that takes place over time. No one, and I do mean no one, is instantly mature. We need to experience before we become mature. This is why teenagers do dumb stuff, because they need to experience before they grow mature and make better choices. Kind of like that child who you tell, don't touch the hot stove, don't touch the hot stove. And when you're not looking, they don't listen. They touch the hot stove. Well, when their hand gets burnt, they learn, don't touch the hot stove. Here's the thing. As silly as a little example as that is, that's a reality for all of us throughout all of our lives. You are a grown teenager. Meaning, okay, you're not as immature as a teenager anymore. Hopefully. But you still haven't reached another level of maturity that's beyond you. And you know what? That's okay. When you look at a teenager and we get annoyed, one of the reasons we get annoyed is because we're not giving them the room to grow. We forget what it's like to be at their level of maturity. We forget that they haven't learned all the stuff that you've learned. And by the way, just because you throw information at them doesn't mean they've learned. Most of us learn by experience. And I can tell you, the stronger willed we are as people, as humans, the harder the lessons are for us, unfortunately. Until we get a level of maturity that says, I ain't going through that stuff anymore. I'm going to learn right now. Because that's me. Well, that's me now anyway. But children are developing and teenagers are developing, and young adults are developing, and middle-aged people are developing, and even some seniors are developing. It doesn't stop. Now, some of you understand this, and you give your teenagers room to grow. Now, I want to interject here and say, giving someone room to grow doesn't mean letting anything fly and just letting anything go, because that's bad too in a different way, because when there's no boundaries, there's no discipline, there's nothing but a trash can and havoc waiting to happen. But I digress. Some of us understand that, and we give room for our teenagers to grow. We understand that they need to make some mistakes. I know as parents, sometimes we don't want them to make mistakes. But at the end of the day, sometimes certain personalities need to make those mistakes to learn, because you telling them isn't good enough. Some of us need to know for ourselves. And that is why teenagers make dumb decisions and do dumb stuff and make dumb mistakes. But if they are interested in maturing, they learn from them. Now, teenagers aren't the only ones that do dumb mistakes. You made a dumb mistake last month or last year, right? I'm sure you made a dumb mistake somewhere because you're a human being. I did too. We're human. It's okay. But what I'm saying is, when we're growing, do you want someone to beat you down for every mistake you ever made and yell at you and tell you how stupid you are for making that mistake? You see, when people do that with teenagers, it puts separation between them. And if you're a parent listening right now who has a teenager, some of this may hopefully help you in dealing with them. At least I hope so. And some of you already understand this. And even if you just get one little thing out of this and it helps you parent, I am very happy. Now, when parenting teenagers, it can be trying, because especially as a loving parent, you want them to do what's best for them. You want them to flourish and just do things proper and do what's best for their future. You want that so bad for them. And so when you see them make mistakes that harm that, it can be very painful or make you angry. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're not bad because that makes you angry or because you want better for them. But you do have to realize that you have to approach them in a certain way. And guess what? Here's a newsflash. You can't approach every teenager the same. Why? Because they're not all the same. Where they're all the same is they're growing and they're maturing, but their personalities are different. Their talents and gifts are different, which means their thinking is different. So I don't approach everybody the same. You see, that doesn't change when you become an adult. I have a sales background. I could, if I wanted to, sell water to someone drowning. Okay? If I wanted to. But what I don't do in sales, and I had a very successful career in sales, by the way. I worked on commission at a few different jobs for several years. And what I learned to do and what I learned to do in my development of sales and convincing people, because that's what sales is, I don't approach everyone the same. So I may give you one approach and someone else a completely different approach. Why? I recognize who I'm talking to. I assess before I make a move. That's not any different with people. The reason this works in sales is because sales is working with people and it works with humans. We have to give patience to people that are growing. We have to be patient with our teenagers, because eventually they grow out of their immaturity. They grow to a next level of maturity and stop doing certain dumb things, right? Or stop thinking certain dumb ways because they're growing. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But don't make the mistake of thinking that you are more specialer and that's not happening with you, because it is. Just like you look over at a teenager like, I can't believe they think that way. Someone else is over looking at you thinking the same thing. I can't believe they think that way, because they are at a little different level of maturity than you currently are. How do you want someone to treat you when you make a mistake? How do you want someone to treat you when you're at a lesser level of maturity than they are? You want room to grow, right? And that is actually my point today. Give people room to grow. Back to teenagers. Most of you, if you have a teenager, understand that you have to give them room to grow. And if you don't understand them, I promise you right now that your relationship with them is damaged because of it, or being damaged. It's not too late to repair that, by the way. So there is hope if that's the case. But you, if you are a parent of a teenager, you have to give room for them to grow. That's the only way they can. They're finding their way throughout life. And guess what? You still are. Yes, you're far more mature than them. You're far more mature than maybe even your peers. Maybe you're just in general a mature person, but are you done growing yet? If you're not done growing yet, that means we need to give you room to make your mistakes. We need to give you room to learn, to grow in certain areas. Now, if you keep making the same mistake over and over and over and over again, that's just a choice. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. But you do it a couple times, that's how you learn. And it's okay. Just like we want to give room for a teenager to grow, you need to do the same thing for the people around you who maybe aren't teenagers. Maybe there's someone at your job who's 33, and you look at them like, how the hell do you think that way? And you look at them like a teenager, and maybe you're right. Maybe they are immature in their thinking. But if they're trying to grow, give them the room. Instead of coming at them with judgmental statements and just being like, why are you stupid, blah, blah, blah. You may not use those words, but you could say it in other ways. Give them room to grow, just like we're giving you room to grow. You have said things that should have never come out of your mouth. You realized it later. You learned from it, and you won't say it again. And you're 54. There's nothing wrong with that. You're a growing human, and no one should beat you up for growing. If you're making the same mistake over and over again and you're not changing, that's a choice. That's not growth. So please understand that that's not what I'm talking about. Give others room to grow, just like you want room to grow. I say that, and with repetition. Give others room to grow just like you want room to grow. Sometimes we need to stop and think first before just being judgmental of where someone is. Because you know what? I'm mature now, but I'm not as mature as I'll be next year or the year after. I'm more mature than I was a year ago. It's called growth, and it's a process. And you're going to make mistakes along the way. And again, that's okay. Learn from those mistakes and move on. Because it really is true that experience is the best teacher. I don't care how many words people throw at you. Nothing sticks like experience. And we learn by doing. And we mature by doing. And maybe someone was immature their whole life, and now at 27, they finally decide to wake up and mature. Good for them. No, yeah, they should have matured before 27, but you can't beat a dead horse. So what? The past is gone. Let them move forward and grow. So my point to you today is, I go back to the title. Teenagers are annoying, but so are you. Give others the room to grow that you want for yourself. You've been listening to Fatima Bey, the MindShifter. I thank you for stopping by and listening. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please email me at radio@fatimabey.com. That's radio@fatimabey.com. And I hope you take this message to heart and really begin to apply it in several areas of your life. Have a good day.
Tune in next week for another segment of Fatima Bey, the MindShifter. For more of her teachings, subscribe to her YouTube channel at Fatima Bey, the MindShifter.